pain provides us, it teaches us a narrative that is not conducive with healing. And so our job now is to change the narrative. Turn to your neighbor and say, change the narrative. Our job is to change the narrative. For some of us, our pain has taught us that I'm helpless. And I get it. When you've been in helpless situations or you've been in situations that you could not affect, it is easy to just feel helpless, right? I just can't do it. There's actually a branch of psychology I was reading about recently called learned helplessness. Learned helplessness. And essentially the idea is that, like, if you keep an elephant caged for long enough, well, then they learn that these are the parameters with which I can move. But if you take away the cage, that elephant more than likely will not move past those parameters that were already set because there's been psychological conditioning of helplessness. Yeah, a psychological conditioning of helplessness. And some of us have that sometimes, even though the parameters have changed, the situation has changed, we still feel helpless. And this is why I find it so profound in Isaiah 61. He writes that Jesus, well, this is Jesus, it's the foretelling of Jesus's prophecy, right? That he will declare the opening of the prison doors to those who are bound. It doesn't say that he will open the prison doors. It says he will declare the opening. Sometimes the door is open. You just need someone to proclaim that it's already open, right? To move out of that space of learned helplessness into a place of actual freedom. Sometimes it takes someone like myself coming to you to say, hey, I know you think that way, but you don't have to think that way. Sometimes it's someone granting you permission to choose another narrative, that actually I'm not helpless. I have agency. Agency is choice. I have a choice here. I have a choice to pick something that is actually more conducive for healing. When that person rejects your call, I have a choice to not think that I'm rejected, but actually think that the person's busy. It's a choice. Okay. So there's agency here. I'm not helpless. I don't have to be a slave to what has gone on. Next thing, I am weak. Sometimes this is the narrative that we have, especially when we've been in positions where we have been overpowered. We just feel like I am weak and there's nothing I can do about it, right? But actually, when you look at that a little bit more deeply, each and every one of us has situational strength. When that adrenaline, we are wired that way. When the adrenaline starts to kick in, we can do things we never thought we could do. We can run further than we ever thought we could run. That's the flight mode. We can fight deeper than we ever thought we could fight. You know, sometimes you hear of, like, I heard a story of a child going under a car and a mum picking up a car, moving the car to get to her child. I like to think that if that ever happened, I would move all sorts of things. Like, the power that will enter my muscles will be supernatural for my child. So there's a situational strength that we can have. For some of us, we might think I'm emotionally weak, or I'm too emotional, I'm too this, or I'm too that. Or changing the narrative, I need to grow in this. I need to become more resilient. That's very different to saying I am weak. I need to become more resilient. For some of us, the narrative that we have always believed is that I'm just unworthy, I'm undeserving, no one ever chooses me. No one ever chooses, I'm just undeserving. You know, and I speak a lot about worthiness. I speak a lot about worthiness. So if you're not familiar with my content, particularly on Instagram, yeah, do have a look. But essentially it's shame speaking, and the Bible promises a double portion for our shame. So rather than honing in on I'm so unworthy, or I'm undeserving, or no one loves me, it's looking at, actually, I'm made in the image of God. Simply by my method of creation and the one who created me, I am so worthy. I am loved beyond measure. The hairs on my head are numbered. It's changing the narrative. For some of us, it's all my fault. And we learn it's all my fault if you grew up in a household that was, like, really strict, for example. Whenever something happens, you just know that you're going to get blamed. And so you carry that blaming. Does this resonate? You carry that blaming through every aspect of your life. Something happens and it's like, oh my gosh, it's me. It's my fault. It's my fault. They do this. What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? It's all me. I'm unlovable. This is a huge one. This is one of the, I would say, one of the three main core beliefs, limiting core beliefs that we have. I'm just unlovable. There's something about me that is unlovable. Everyone else is lovable, but me is not me that they can love. I'm just too this, or I'm just too that. Changing that narrative. Well, actually, Jesus himself loves me. God loves me. Placing yourself in environments where people can actually get to know you and love you too, because if they get to know you, I'm sure they will love you, without self-sabotaging. I'm unlovable. And it's more than just changing the narrative as if like repeating words to yourself, but actually changing the narrative. If your narrative of being unlovable has placed you in environments where you are not being seen by people around you, well, then it's opening up so you can receive love in order to challenge the narrative. Does that make sense? Or everyone leaves me. Well, let's think about that. Does everyone actually leave you? And the ones that left you, were they ever for you? Is it possible that God removed that which wasn't for you in order to bring that which is for you? Just thinking out loud, challenge the narrative. This is something that we call cognitive reframing. And this can look like everything from repeating the words out loud to kind of like setting homework for yourself, right? And building on that. If you feel like you're physically weak, going to the gym, that's changing the narrative. This is something that we have to do. And once again, like I said, this is a whole essay in and of itself. So I'm moving through it quite quickly.